Welcome to Dweller of the Dark. We are a channel honoring the yellowed and blackened bones of many prominent authors. We will be digging up several obscure, strange, and forgotten authors who influenced many of the great horror, science fiction, and fantasy writers today. More tales of the horrifying, obscure, strange, and forgotten are climbing out of the tombs. Subscribe, comment, like, donate, or I'll send the devil of black by you to rip your head off as we did the like button. Unknown horror masters, send us ghoulish delights for the Skull and Bones collection. Your pound of writer's flesh will feed our ghouls for now. Books, albums, websites in the links below. Children of Horror, Legion of Ghouls. The season of Halloween has arrived. Each night, we will present a tale, song, or poem in the ghoulish spirit of the season. For day 19, we proudly present Sarah, Eternally Entombed. Dedicated to S.T. Joshi, Ian Gordon, Roland Wiffering, Patrick Cassidy, at Frank Monday, at Donald McCleary 9015, Ronald McGilvray, and A Time of Shadows. Devilishly devoted to horror and Halloween. May your souls always be.
I'm awakened by screeching, maniacal cries. I'm not sure if those screams are real anymore. The church bell man that screams them should be dust by now. How often in the first 50 years had I heard him wail and sing through the night each year of my internment? I have truly lost count to the numbers, but their occurrence was comforting for me in the darkness of this tomb. His mournful cries were bittersweet. They always reminded me that I had survived one more tragic year. Yes, I had persevered another day, another week, another month, and certainly another century with the worms, slugs, spiders, maggots, and rats. I have wandered with each passing eon, suffering from my own insanity, confined to darkness, unable to speak the words coherently. Is the bellman really screaming out there in the church's gloom? He can't be. I know that. He passed away more than 5 centuries ago. I remember hearing his eulogy. Maybe it's Father out there, bemoaning and crying over the loss of me. Often, I heard his shuffle in the dust. I bet his ghost is throwing another red rose on the door of my crypt. No, it can't be him either. A man with his pure heart had to ascend to heaven, if there is one. Those mournful, lonesome shrills are just the night winds. They are the only thing left that mourn for me now over my grave. These chilling, eternal winds have twisted and weaved as bats through the moonlit swamp since time eternal. As the winds continue, I wonder how many leaves have fallen from the plantation oaks through the centuries as they howled on like a madman's ghost. I cackle as best I can through a throat that feels as coarse as sandpaper and as brittle as cracked leather. Then I move toward an immovable door, my archaic tomb door. In futility, I slap my skeletal, clawed hands against its black marble wall. The gravestone is as damp, lifeless, and cold as the first year I was placed in my tomb, still very much alive. After 5 centuries or more, for I can only guess the years now through my fogged mind, it still does not bend. It still does not crumble to dust as everything else around me. Giving up once again, I fall to my knees and lean my head against its chilled, damp facade. Taking in a raspy sigh, I succumb to sadness, but I have nothing left to cry. Father, I must say wholeheartedly, when you built something, it always lasts. But I never would have thought I'd live long enough to see that your skills were indeed greater than the will of mine. I croak out the words and shake my head in jest. I need some form of humor in this darkness. I look on the ancient decay as best I can in the gloom. There's not much light, as you can imagine, in a decrepit tomb of black marble. But my eyes have adjusted somewhat to the cobwebs and the dust-filled darkness. I smell the pungent, sulphurous smoldering of cloth and shroud. My ears have adjusted to hearing the writhing of maggots and worms in the corpses of my recent crawling dead, the rats. In point of fact, I hear a growing, gnawing crack of bone. As a rat, one of many that have kept me sustained, moves about dragging with it an ancestor's bones. It's kind of a trade-off between us, you see. I open the caskets to bring the rats in. They keep me alive as I dine on them. And as I look over to their growing pile of flies and skeletons from my feast, there are plenty of rats in New Orleans to keep me sustained. By now you may ask, why haven't I dug my way out of the tomb? The answer is simple enough. I tried and tried and tried again. But something Father put in the mortar that lines the tomb burns my hands and sets them to blaze. Religious relic, some alchemical resins he formulated, or a talisman from one of those dark conjurers he employed. I don't know. I do know what burning, blistered, decayed flesh feels like. It's the worst sunburn of your life, and I erupt into flames each time I try to dig out. Needless to say, after a century, I gave up digging and waited in vain for the elements to finally crumble the place. One would think with the whole town below sea level and all the hurricanes, I'd finally get a release. But as my luck has always been a bust, of course the tomb of Mademoiselle Sarah de la Salle, me, would be the one built to outlast all until what? Judgment Day? Night is approaching. I can feel the change of temperature in the tomb. The worms are becoming more active, and they're squirming all around me. The maggots inch by the dozens across my chest. I hear the excited squealing and clawing of the rats, too. I should have jumped just now with the melee moving amok around me. But I'm fascinated with this one brave rat, this foolish rat, and most certainly a hungry rat that has decided to take a bite out of me. His teeth feel as pinpricks in my stretched, leathered legs. They burn as tiny incising blades, chewing ever deeper into my bone. For some reason I can't define, for some emotion that doesn't quite seem rational, I let the devilish rat bite down even harder. I embrace the pain as something, anything, to make me feel again. Even if it is absolute, mind-numbing torture. A moment longer I endure those pin slices and hear the teeth crunching and cracking as the vermin reaches bone. Then I strike like a viper. I rip the animal with my clawed hands from my leg and pull him up from his feast to mine. The rat's blood is salty to taste, and the fur dirt-covered and disgusting. But to a starving woman such as myself, the rat is the most exquisite dining anyone could ask for. Of course, once you get past the egg-rotting smell and taste of the sewer. Was it a week? Was it a month? Or maybe a year later, when Providence stepped in? By evening or day, take your pick, in the tomb's eternal midnight, began as they all did, with the same darkness. The same dust and cobwebs greeted me when I arose amongst the same moldering, earthen smell and clawing and gnawing of the rats. I changed my routine that momentous day. I sat outside my sepulcher with the same tedious boredom that had been my only companion across the eons. Thankfully, I must admit, it was a great thing I did. Had I done my usual routine of resting and slumbering, I most certainly would not have been here to tell my tale. Through the centuries of the ebb and flow of the mighty Mississippi River, the spaces and fortifications that had hidden me from the world had worn away. Underground rivulets, cavernous streams, and the tides had cut away large areas that had encapsulated my graveside prison. Then a hurricane came to finish the job and unveil what had been buried so carefully and meticulously by Father. With the last storm called Katrina, a massive shift of tombs that stood over my vaulted tomb had been washed away in the massive flooding. Rain from the heavens themselves, divine or otherwise, had washed away my tormentor's clever ruse. Once revealed, as I would soon learn, my hidden tomb had caused quite the sensation with the New Orleans Historical Society and the local archaeologist. Of a special intrigue to these learned men and women were the carved images of Creole gree-gree, monstrous bat figures, and the talismans. Obsessed by the news of the find, one such academic expert, Dr. Jameson Bashir, came down from Tulane to research and excavate immediately. Pictures were taken, reports drawn up, and the logistics coordinated as best Jameson could do on storm-damaged roads. Had he delayed, had he been put off by the government and local officials trying to get the obsessed historian to see reason, then I surely might have remained in my tomb. But his persistence was unstoppable and his will indomitable. The latter, when we met, I'd find it quite appealing, and a sort of kinship of souls would be ignited. Would my friendship with him last as long as my internment in the De La Salle crypt? Only time would tell. On the third day of the historical research team's work, I heard someone outside brushing something. I believe it even now to have been Jameson. He was meticulously dusting one of many terrible images on my tomb. The one in particular he cleaned was a poorly carved, fanged bat thing. After he had cleaned away centuries of earth, I heard him mumbling my inscription. It was while I was sitting amused that something happened. It was both horrifying and exciting in the same instance. I heard the roar of a hideous beast and a stupendous crash to my immediate right. There followed an earthquake all around me, with the collapsing of mud and stone all around. A miracle had occurred. A contractor in a hurry with his digging equipment slammed the bucket of his excavator into the side wall of the tomb. Trying to regain control of the equipment, he'd caused a second forceful crash, with more earth falling onto my coffin, exposing it immediately to sunlight. The crumbling bricks did not concern me in the least, but the blazing orange rays of a midday Louisiana sun were another story. In an instant, I recoiled with a hiss and fell out of the sun's rays and dug myself under a nearby coffin, praying no one would open it. There was so much light, you see, and even being under and tucked away would not guarantee completely my safety. I heard the man, whom I'd later learn was Jameson, cursing, "Johnny Landry, you damn fool! Look what you've done to a 500-year-old tomb, man! The damage to the tomb is coming out of your company's end of the contract, and any relics damaged too." Johnny Marshall apologized immediately with a nervous stutter. I'm sorry, Mr. Mr. Bashir. The control's stuck for some reason. This is a new act. Jameson growled as he interrupted. "I don't care, Johnny. The damage is done. Just know it's going to cost you. If it happens again, your team is out of here." I smelled the perspiration dripping off his brow as Johnny let out a deep sigh and agreed. "It won't, sir. I'll bring in our old excavator and send this one back to John Deere or hell, whichever one is closer." A voice I didn't recognize asked with a slight yawn, "Are we going to go inside, Mr. Jameson?" "No one is to go inside until the structural engineers clear the place. Who knows what kind of flooring or roofing damage is in there?" I heard Jameson order as he paced outside the opening of my tomb. His walk was feverish and animated as he continued his strides back and forth, just mere feet from where I was hidden. Again, No one does any research inside until we get the full approval from the structural experts, which someone needs to go find those guys. They cut out of here a little too early, in my opinion. Get their butts back here ASAP. Jameson announced this last warning with all the seriousness of a hellhound. I'm not going through another collapsed cave-in like I did in Egypt, and neither are any of you on my watch.
No problem, Dr. Basher.
A woman's chirpy voice screeched out.
There's no way I'd go into that thing without a hazmat suit or respirator on. You might want to call the biology department, the parish hazardous response, or medical forensics too. All the piles of rotting rats, some gas or something might be hanging around.
Oh, God, does that stink to high heaven? A man's voice roared out as he turned away to retch. The team had been gone several hours, calling it quits for the day. As the twilight set in, I noticed just a few guards patrolling my tomb. On I watched as night had fallen and a golden harvest moon had risen over New Orleans. At least I think it was New Orleans. God, so much had changed. I saw all things, heard all things, and felt so much high strangeness that first night back in the world. This was a cherished moment. It was my first moonlight, my first night since Father had entombed me to perish so long ago. For the first time in 500 years, I felt the chill of the howling night winds blowing into my tomb. I felt the wet dampness of fog drifting into my prison of eternity. But more importantly, I caught the fragrant whiffs of something I had not indulged in since my imprisonment by my father. Human blood. My throat convulsed and my fangs ground against themselves at such a possibility to indulge my thirst. My stomach twisted in knots as I leaned to steady myself from falling. I was ravished by hunger. I desired, I needed, I had to have a more suitable feast than sewer rats. And my emaciated frame in a moment shuddered to the point of full seizure from my unquenchable bloodlust. Alas, I would have to control and stay down my desperate cravings. I'd steel my nerves to be patient and wait for now. I was too weak from the ravages of time. I certainly was in no shape to take on large prey for nourishment. Yet, Lord knows, I had the will to endure, to survive centuries and bide my time. A little longer to gradually build up my strength was a minor inconvenience. My chance to hunt again, to catch my prey, and to blood chase was nigh. Thank you for listening. Have a great night.